welcome to another edition of Wyo-Dakota 2A Arsenal Roundup News. I am your host, Richard Espinoza. We are your primary source for Second Amendment news, whether it be good, bad, or ugly, whether it be here in the great state of South Dakota, or even in the great state of Wyoming, or any part of the United States. Good, bad, or ugly, we report you important Second Amendment news that matters. First of all, I want to take this time and say it's been a while since I've done a YouTube video. I've been busy moving. I'll be moving again, unfortunately. But I want to give a shout out to all my friends in South Dakota and Wyoming. It was great knowing you. I've really developed a great friendship. But because of work purposes, I'll be moving to Arizona soon. I was also been out for a while. I had been hospitalized for almost a week. I had a heart fibrillation, and I'm in California right now visiting my mom. So I figure I'd do an important video, important legislation, and this is important information to all the people of the great state of South Dakota. So to all my friends in South Dakota, listen up. I have some very important things I want to discuss. This relates to a topic that was discussed at the Gun Owners of America Goals Convention in Knoxville, Tennessee over the weekend. 20 years ago, the people of South Dakota spoke, and they spoke with a strong voice. They voted to vote out anti-gun extremists, then Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle. And 20 years ago, the people of South Dakota overwhelmingly elected John Thune as their new senator. One of the things that the people of South Dakota, why they chose John Thune, for numerous reasons. One, they knew that they had enough of Tom Daschle. Second, John Thune basically ran his platform as being a champion for gun rights, that he would stand up for American gun owners, that he would fight every anti-gun legislation that went near him. He'd make sure it would be defeated, and he would fight. Unfortunately, John Thune has not lived up to those high expectations as he promised 20 years ago. So it's time that the people of South Dakota make a decision. We either have to send a message to Senator Thune and let him know about his promise he made 20 years ago. And if he fails not to keep up that promise, then it's up to the people of South Dakota to find a person who will stand up for the Second Amendment, somebody who will stand toe-to-toe with American gun owners. Unfortunately, John Thune has become a failure on that. And here is why. In the 20 years that John Thune has been Senator of South Dakota, he has backstabbed many gun owners. He also sided with Gun Control Light. Worst of all, he's allowing an unelected bureaucrat to dictate to the U.S. Senator. We're talking about the U.S. parliamentarian Elizabeth MacDonough, who is also a rabidly anti-gun unelected bureaucrat. She's using her unelected bureaucrat power to influence important bills that would protect our Second Amendment rights. Elizabeth MacDonough has the nickname Queen Elizabeth, and not in a positive way, but in a negative way, because she's an elitist. She sides with British law in taking away our Second Amendment rights. She's also a hack attorney. Most likely, she's probably worked with anti-gun groups as an attorney, but she has been in the way of things in preventing important Second Amendment protection that would prevent us from exercising our Second Amendment rights. So we're encouraging all the people from South Dakota to please listen up. We need to send a clear message to John Thune that he needs to fire Elizabeth MacDonough as the parliamentarian. Since he is in charge of the U.S. Senate, he has the power to do so. But the only way we can do that is if we call John Thune's office. We need to call his office, and if not his office, then you need to call the House and Ways and Means Committee hotline. The number is on the screen right now. You can, if you look at the screen, this is the number to the House and Ways and Means Committee. So it's important that you call the House and Ways and Means Committee. If John Thune is not returning your calls, and if he's not listening, then you need to call the House and Ways and Means Committee. Because the more calls we give to the House and Ways and Means Committee, they will tell Senator Thune, listen, your constituents are not happy with you right now, and you need to do something. Because next year will be the midterm elections. We need to send a powerful message to John Thune that if he fails to live up to his high expectations that he's promised, he needs to be voted out. We need to find somebody that can beat him in the primary elections, somebody who is pro-Second Amendment. But we need to send a clear message to Senator Thune and let him know that the people of South Dakota 20 years ago elected you for a reason, and one reason only, for you to stand up for our Second Amendment rights, which he has failed to do in the last 20 years that he's been in office. So I'm going to read you a press release from Gun Owners of America so you can get an idea what I'm talking about and why this subject was brought up at the Goals Convention. So here is the information I'm going to read to you right now. And it says, President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill included critical pro-gun provisions that would have removed burdensome taxes and registration requirements on suppressors and short-barreled firearms. These measures are vital to protecting the hearing of law-abiding gun owners and ensuring their rights to self-defense without government outreach. But here is the outrage. U.S. Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth MacDonough, a partisan hack, has ruled against provisions stripping them from the bill under the gesture of the so-called Bird Rule. Her actions are a direct assault on our Second Amendment rights, siding with anti-gun extremists who want to keep these common sense protections out of reach. This isn't about the Senate rules. It's about MacDonough using her unelected position to push radical anti-gun agenda. Senator Majority Leader John Thune has the power to fire MacDonough and to restore these critical provisions. But he is dragging his feet. We need to send a clear message. No more excuses, Senator Thune. And it says, fire Elizabeth MacDonough now. GOA is putting pressure on the Senate Majority Leader Thune to assure the anti-gun partisan hack Elizabeth MacDonough is fired. But we can't do it without you. We need your immunity. So that means one thing. The people of South Dakota, you need to call John Thune's office as soon as possible. Make sure you tell Senator Thune that he needs to stand up for law-abiding gun owners, that Elizabeth MacDonough needs to be removed and needs to be fired. She's an unelected bureaucrat who is dictating way on how the Senate has to vote on these important bills that protect our Second Amendment right. And if I'm not mistaken, there's nothing that says in the Constitution that a parliamentarian is needed for the U.S. Senate. That position should be abolished. She is an unelected bureaucrat who is violating our constitutional rights. And unfortunately, we become our own worst enemy when we're not keeping our elected officials accountable when it comes to our Second Amendment rights. For instance, we have the ATF, who are unelected bureaucrats. They are making laws that has not been made by the approval of Congress. And if we let these people get away with it, they're going to continue. Just like with Senator Thune, if we do not call his office and tell him what's going on, you need to tell him how angry you are, that you're not going to put up with this, that he needs to fire Elizabeth MacDonough as soon as possible. And if he refuses to do so, then it's up to you, to the people of South Dakota, to vote out John Thune. When it comes to the Second Amendment, this is not about Republican or Democrat. It's about standing up for our rights. It's about those who will look after our rights. And one of our biggest mistakes we make as gun owners, we tend to think that just because this person's a Republican, somehow, some way, they're going to protect our Second Amendment rights. It doesn't work that way. Because not every Republican is pro-gun. True, there are a lot more pro-gun Republicans and far less pro-gun Democrats. Do I know any pro-gun Democrats? The only one I can remember was the late Zell Miller of Georgia. He was the only Democrat I know, other than the late President John F. Kennedy, who was a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. But regardless of what political party they are part of, Republican or Democrat, we need to hold them accountable. So that is why the people of South Dakota, you need to take some time and think and find a candidate that will stand up for your Second Amendment rights. I would help you if I could, but I will be moving. I'm hoping to move to Arizona and to help the people of Arizona vote out Katie the Lunatic Hobbs as the next governor of Arizona. She's running up for a re-election, and I'm hoping that the people of Arizona will help defeat Katie Hobbs. Because right now, as the way I see it, Arizona's gun rights are on life support right now. Though Arizona does have excellent gun laws, they're not restrictive like California. You can still carry. You can still conceal carry. You don't have no permit that you need. It is a 100% gun-friendly state. But the question is, how much longer will it be? Because I guarantee, and this is important also to the people of Arizona, just because you live in a pro-gun state doesn't mean it's going to be pro-gun forever. The way I see it right now is that Katie Hobbs is just buying her time right now. She knows not to mess with American gun owners, especially the people of Arizona. They're very, very protective of their Second Amendment rights. But what will happen is this: if Katie Hobbs gets reelected, I will assure you, she will try to turn Arizona gun laws into another California, into another New York, if we don't wake up. So this is important that the people of Arizona, you need to get ready to vote out Katie Hobbs, because I guarantee you, she will show her true colors. After all, she is in the pocket with Senator Mark Kelly, who's also radically anti-gun. As you probably know, what happened to his wife, Gabrielle Giffords, who was killed by that lunatic, almost got killed by that lunatic Jared Loughner. And of course, it was our law enforcement officers who were the biggest failures in all this. They were warned about Jared Loughner, and they did nothing about it, but they waited when it was already too late. But this is where you come in, people. You have to hold your elected officials accountable at all times. With the midterm elections coming up, it is up to you to make sure that every elected official hears your voice. And if you live in a blue state where you have a corrupt congressman or a corrupt U.S. senator who's not listening to you, you got to call the House and Ways and Means Committee. Leave a message. And then they're going to tell them that, look, your constituents are not happy with you. They're calling us because you're not listening. And the more they hear our voice, the more worried they will be of their political future. But unfortunately, these current politicians, they want to make their profession long term. There should not be career politicians. Being a U.S. Senator, being a congressperson should be temporary service. And one of the things that the late President David Eisenhower once said, politics was not meant to be a profession, but only a temporary service. There shouldn't be career politicians. They should do their time and then move on into civilian life. But unfortunately, we let it get out of control, and we are our own worst enemy when we're keeping silent. So that is why you need to the people of South Dakota, you need to call John Thune's office and tell Senator Thune that enough is enough. You made a promise 20 years ago that you were going to stand up for American gun owners. You failed to do your job. With midterm elections coming out, we're going to find somebody to replace you if you do not fire Elizabeth MacDonough. Now, John Thune has been in office way too long. And clearly, the people of South Dakota 20 years ago had enough of Tom Daschle, which is clearly understandable. And I was very happy today that Tom Daschle was defeated. He was one of the worst, if not the worst, rabidly anti-gun politician within the Senate at the time, other than Smucky, Yucky, Chucky Schumer. So again, to the people of South Dakota, do your job, do your civic duty, take the time of your day to call John Thune's office and tell him that you're not happy with him for failing to protect our Second Amendment rights. But above all, he has failed to listen to the people of South Dakota by not firing Elizabeth MacDonough. And he can do it tomorrow, or any day now he can do it. But the only way we can get John Thune to fire Elizabeth MacDonough is if we start getting these phones on the hook. Ring them until they shut off. That means you got to call John Thune's office in South Dakota, Washington, D.C., and call the House and Ways and Means Committee. So this is up to you, South Dakota. You elected this man as your senator. Now it's your job to determine his fate. Remember, we are the employers. They are the employees. And we have the power to fire them. And if John Thune does not fire Elizabeth MacDonough, then the people of South Dakota, you have the power to fire John Thune and replace him with somebody who will stand up for our Second Amendment rights. Well, that is it for today for Wyo-Dakota 2A Arsenal Roundup News. If you have any important legislation that you want to inform me on, important legislation that you want me to reach out to the social media, please feel free to send me an email at rjespinoza, that's ESPINOZA .roundupnews@gmail.com. Tell me what state you're from, tell me about the legislation, and tell me why this will benefit your Second Amendment rights or how it will harm your Second Amendment rights. So send me this information to my email, and I will be sure to report it in my next podcast in the future. So I also encourage all of you out there, also follow Jarrett Yanis from Guns and Gadgets, Liberty Doll, and Mark W. Smith from Fort Box Diner, as well as John Crump. And also the Armed Attorneys. There are a lot of great social media influencers in the Second Amendment community on YouTube. How much longer we'll be on YouTube is beyond me, because YouTube is not pro-gun. As we all know, they're kind of restrictive when it comes to pro-gun videos. Hopefully in the future I might switch to a different platform, but for now it's YouTube. But if you have any recommendations I can switch to, that would be great. I'm willing to listen, willing to take any suggestions. So again, that is it for today. Have a great day, fellow Americans, and I'll see you on my next podcast. Take care.